you before. I'm just gonna vamp for a couple of
Yeah.
seconds
Yeah,
here,
that's
so
okay.
so it doesn't completely f up the intro here. But
I'll let you flounder on your own.
yeah,
Yeah.
just let me drown. I'll be
Yeah.
over here. I'll be doing the
Yep.
Kevin James routine over here. Excuse me. I do got
Yeah.
to watch that Becky movie, by the way. I heard some talk about the sequel coming out soon.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
it's out already.
it's out already.
I saw somebody I know log it on Letterboxd, so I would
Oh,
assume it's out. But
that's not your friends that are directing it, though, correct?
no, they produced it, so I still might whether they actually had any handle on it, I don't know, but still might give them a poke if I do watch it. Give them a little tweet.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. Becky 2, check it
Yeah.
out. And Becky 1 especially, check that one out.
Yeah.
Brad's show, not mine. Okay, Brad, go away. I need the single. We have to do an official intro now. Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of June 2023, and is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It is going great, Trevor. No, it's good. Yeah, it's good to be back. And I mean, for a great episode of Tales from the Shelf might be our easiest episode yet. I mean, I put zero thought into this. Like literally, I just, I mean, I'll let you introduce the segment, but I mean, this was simple.
Yeah, and that extends to the title of this month's episode. We tend to give alliterative titles to each of our Tales from the Shelf episodes. In this month, it's been a long month. I'm tired. My regular co host Kyle has been busy with real life stuff, so I've mostly been doing solo episodes. So I decided I would do a no effort episode in the form of what I would like to call recent reviews. It's alliterative, it's got two R's.
Works for me.
Yeah, same here, bud. So, what we're going to be doing here today, and also if you're not familiar with the show format, a Tales from the Shelf episode is essentially Tales from the Shelf, excuse me, episode, is where Brad and I basically talk about our respective film collections. Both he and I, as you may have noticed in the background of both of our webcams here, have, yes, you can see the lovely Midsommar that we both actually have.
Oh
The
yeah.
A24 yellow oversized case that is a very awkward thing to put on your shelf, by the way.
Is yours the Blu-ray or the 4K?
The 4K.
See, mine's only the Blu-ray, unfortunately. Yikes.
That's right. I haven't watched mine yet, though, so you got me beat there.
I haven't watched mine either.
Oh,
I've seen the
never
movie.
mind.
I haven't watched I've never seen the director's cut, but so I don't have
Okay.
you beat.
Okay, well, maybe that's a project for another day. But basically, the show format today and every month here on the show is Brad and I talk about our movie collections. We both own quite a lot of movies, and in the process of collecting movies, I find that there's often a lot of stories associated with why each person tends to purchase and select the movies that they add to their hopefully curated collections. Otherwise, that is called hoarding, Brad. And I try my best not to do that. So this month, we're going to be talking about, and remember, this is laziness embodied. Like we're trying to keep this streamlined and simple. We're just referencing our Letterboxd accounts and pulling everything off the shelf that we have watched from our collections recently. So not all of the most recent movies that we've watched, strictly just the ones that we own physically that we've watched recently. And it can be a rewatch, it can be a first time watch, doesn't matter, as long as we've watched it recently. Brad, did you want to jump in there for a sec?
I was just going to comment quick on when you said hoarding. I just want to say that when in my vernacular, when you are hoarding your Blu-ray collection, essentially, I refer to that as juicing because you're juicing your numbers. So just throwing that out there.
You are wheezing the juice of your
Yeah.
collection. I like that though. You were juicing your numbers. It's
Mhm.
it's it's like a fighter fighting tomato cans, as they used to call them, just
Yeah.
pushovers. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll buy 12 copies of Shooter or,
Mhm.
or Phone Booth or The
Or
Born Identity or some shit.
like, you going to Walmart and just going through the $5 bin, not even care like, not, I don't care about watching them, I just want to have my collection seem bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe throwing in some exercise Blu-rays or DVDs or
Oh,
just, that
oh,
kinda
ah,
thing. Or, I would even argue if you have, like a child or a wife or girlfriend and you take their movie, and this isn't necessarily across the board, but you take their movies not out of concern for space or just ease of access, but you intentionally put their movies in with yours to juice the numbers. There has to be an intention behind it, but that can also be an example.
God, these are concepts that have never entered my mind. This is all very fascinating stuff, and this is why
Yeah.
I like to do this particular program on the podcast. Is because these discussions are ones that you can only really have with a fellow collector, and I think Brad and I have a bit of a simpatico in the way that we tend to curate our collections to some extent. Like there's
hmm
a general vibe that's evident if you just glance over our shelves,
I
and I
still
appreciate that.
I still think we need to do. I don't. It wouldn't need to be really Tales from the Shelf because it doesn't totally fit in the zone. But I guess maybe it could be. I don't. We just need to do an episode where we discuss and debate how to organize the collection.
Now, see
Like
that
we're.
one, Brad. See that one, Brad. What you would have to do for that is, I think I would have to put you in the driver's seat for that one,
hmm
and we might have to have some guests,
Yeah.
because that could potentially change the internet. That could save lives, Brad. Like you could save people with that, with
I, I
having that discussion in public.
I don't. I will say I don't want to take full credit for that idea because I have heard other internet personalities who collect do similar things. But I mean, everybody's a little different, so we could lay down our rules, and that would be the thing. It wouldn't be just saying like, "Oh, I do it this way," and Trevor, you do it that way. Oh, that's great. No, it's like we are
Oh no! Did Restream fail
making the
me?
rules here, and we may do. Oh, did it?
No, we're good.
Are
We're
we?
good.
Do we lose each other?
Briefly.
Okay, we're back. We're back.
We're back, baby. But yeah, I think if we were to do that, I would make you be the primary host for the episode, and I think I would serve as a moderator. Like I'd just sit back and do one of these and throw out yellow and red cards and shit, and be like, well, I would litigate things.
Mhm.
I would love to see that happen someday. Um,
Yeah, could be good.
but let's get to the goods though. So, as I said, all of the movies that we're going to be talking about here today, and we're going to be going back and forth as we typically do here, are going to be movies that we both own, that we have watched, very recently, like at least within the past couple of months or so. So this is a gimme. This is an easy one. We can literally just, if we wanted to, we could be the laziest of hosts and just stare at our letterbox the whole time on our phones. You could just look at the top of our heads throughout the entire episode. But as is customary, I will do my hosting duties here and promptly toss Brad directly under the bus, and ask that, Brad, would you care to share your first recent review?
Yeah, well, I will mention a movie that I recently rewatched. The reason I rewatched it is, Trevor, you know this, but anyone who doesn't on my show, we recently have implemented a segment called Movie Roulette, where we spin a wheel and it essentially just gives us a random movie through a variety of factors. And in one of my recent episodes, I recorded with my buddy Charlie, and his recent movie roulette was a movie that I owned on Blu-ray. So I got the opportunity to revisit this one. It is from the Vestron Video Collectors series, and it is number one on the spine, number one from that series, and it is the infamous Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall from 1986, which I think it might have been the first. I don't know if it was the. I don't think it was the first Vestron movie I watched, but definitely an early one in my collection. And you can tell that I did recently watch it because it's still in the Blu-ray player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But this movie is, I think, pretty fun. I don't think it's great by any means. I mean, obviously, it's probably not going to be great, but I think it tonally knows what it is, and I think it has a good mix of not taking itself too seriously, but still kind of adhering to the slasher formula. So the premise, which I think is a good premise, I have to say, is this mall implements these robot security guards. One night, the mall is struck by lightning, and it causes these robot security guards to malfunction, and their non-lethal security methods all of a sudden turn lethal, and they begin to kill everybody in sight. And it just so happens to be a night when a bunch of teenagers have snuck into the mall and stayed after hours. So then it ends up, becoming basically a slasher movie, kind of a little bit of an action slasher, I guess. But them trying to survive against these killer robots, and it's fun. It's goofy. Um, it's not amazing. Like, I do feel like it's not it doesn't totally embrace like the horror side of it enough. Like, it's not gory enough. Like, you really think you'd go for some really like over the top kills in this, and it really never goes there. I don't know if that's like a budgetary thing or not, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those subgenre films, like, being stuck in a mall, which I really enjoy, and great runtime as well. It's only like 76 minutes, short, sweet, to the point. And the Blu-ray release is pretty great. Like, there's 3 audio commentaries on here, a bunch of bonus featurettes for the first Vestron release. Number one, they made it stacked. Like, it's probably the best Vestron release, I would say, in terms of the film, the bonus features, just the whole thing. Probably would be the one I would recommend most people.
Wow. I think I
To be
only
well, to be
own.
fair, I haven't seen them all. So, but out of the 4 I've seen, out of the 30 I own, it's the one I would recommend the most.
Yeah, folks at home, if you're not aware, Brad actually has, I believe, the entirety of the Vestron film
I
collection
think
on
so. Still,
Blu-ray. Um, I don't know if there've been recent releases, but yeah, that's kind of been an ongoing project for Brad. So he's working his way through them, but that's that's cool, but it's also a little unfortunate that it's like the first one out the gate is the best one.
yeah.
Go figure. But I think I only own 2 Vestron titles. I have Extreme Prejudice. I think that's the Nick Nolte headlined film, and then the Wraith, which Charlie Sheen's in there. That's kind of
hmm
fun. But the soundtrack for that one is mostly why I have it. I don't actually like the movie that much, but I do like a lot of the butt rock that's in that movie. um, but yeah,
Yeah.
Chopping Mall I haven't seen, but I know it by reputation. I've heard a few snippets of the soundtrack of the original soundtrack, the score. Um, would you mind checking the back of the box to see if they listed the composer? Because I do know that they have pressed a vinyl for that score, and it's a fun one. It's very much like mid '80s kind of electronic synth stuff.
It's not listed on the back of the Blu-ray, unfortunately.
Probably not important. I mean, it's not like it's a Goblin like score or anything
Yeah,
like that.
but it's a
But
it's a good score. I do like it. Yeah.
yeah, like I said, haven't seen the movie, but I have heard snippets of the score, and I liked what I heard. I think Dick Miller's in there as like a
hmm
janitor or something, which
Yep. Yep.
he's always welcome. That guy, Dick Miller. That's a documentary I'd like to see someday. I've
hmm
heard it's a fun one, and it's Dick Miller. I love him. But yeah, Chopping Mall is one that I've heard is a fun like aside aside from the teen boob comedy stuff, like aside from that element, I've heard it's a pretty fun like party watch. Like it's a
Yeah.
fun thing to just put on in the background with a bunch of friends over with pizza or something.
Yeah, and it definitely is kind of more like, obviously slashers in the 80s, not like shy of the fact, like, the classic rule of, I think you've said this over and over again, like, if you don't see a kill or boobs in 10 minutes, it's not doing it right. This
Yeah.
one like, is maybe one of the most, like, not exploitative, but, like, just so obvious in terms of it's like, "All right, here's our boob shot," where it's like, at one point, what's her name? Barbara, is it Stanwyck? No. I can't she's not even listed on the box here.
It can't be
Weird.
Crampton. She's too talented. It is
That's
Crampton. I was about to say she's too talented for
who's
that.
Barbara Stanwyck? Who the fuck am I thinking of?
Beats me.
But anyway, Barbara Crampton.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is in this, weirdly enough, and she's, like, not, like, very high build, which is kind of odd because I
Hmm.
think what year was Reanimator? Was that 85?
I mean, it was around there. It was like
Yeah.
thereabouts.
Yeah, maybe this was filmed before Reanimator, but either way, like, there's a moment where she's, like, making out with her boyfriend, and they're on the couch in this furniture store in the mall, and she literally, like, stands up, walks to the camera, turns towards the camera, takes her top off, and then goes back to the couch, like, just, like, classic, right?
We need to
Um,
stop the movie dead so we can get some tits.
yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I'm just picturing a producer in the editing bay, just like
Yeah, yeah.
we're on a schedule here, editor.
Another thing that I don't like about the movie, well, not that I don't like, but I think they could have leaned a little more into it in terms of, like, the robots malfunction, and pretty much it's just like, whenever they see someone, it's just they kill. Like, the whole thing is like they have this pretty good opening scene where the robots are revealed in this, like, press conference, and people are asking questions, and some guys like, well, how are they going to know who's a criminal and who's not if it's after hours? And the guy shows how they can scan your ID badge, and I think they could have done something a little bit better of, like, if the kids in the mall were caught somehow breaking mall rules, and then the robots kill them, but it's pretty much just the robots, once they see them, they just try to kill them. Like, at one point, the guy actually does show the robot his badge, and then the robot just ignores it and just kills him. So it's like, it could have been cool if they were, like, partying, and, like, they were drinking beer, and, like, one guy threw his beer and missed the trash can and, like, littered, and, like, that was, like, the inciting incident, or something like, or they're in the store and one guy, like, shoplifts and sticks something in his pocket, something like, I feel like they could have leaned into that idea a little more, but it's pretty much they just are out for blood.
Yeah, from a logic and writing standpoint, I think that would be probably more interesting and probably very funny to have
Hmm.
like something seemingly innocuous be the cause for all this. What comes to mind, and probably what happened here, is that the movie hadn't come out yet, so they couldn't rip it off. Ed 209 from RoboCop, where it's
Hmm.
just a misunderstanding. Because like, if I don't know if you remember, but the whole dun 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 thing in the office high rise at the beginning of RoboCop, good movie, you should watch it. Um, Comes as a result of the person who points a gun, like a demonstration weapon, at the Ed 209 robot.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
throws it on the floor, and it does. They say it didn't hear the dropping. It didn't hear the weapon hit the floor. So something about its sensors, it's too fucking stupid to know that the gun is not in the man's possession anymore. So it's just like, I'm authorized to use deadly force, so I'm gonna. So yeah, I think that would have made a lot of sense to have the robots like it's just like a gross misunderstanding. Like they're just overstepping their bounds. In fact, Paul Blart versus Chopping Mall. Make that happen. Where it's like Paul Blart's his job is in jeopardy because they're hiring Chopping Mall robots instead.
Hmm.
He's got to prove to us that he's better than a Chopping Mall.
That
And
could
I'm
be
sorry, I
good.
have to call them Chopping Mall. They're not security robots. They're Chopping Malls
Yeah.
plural.
It's also, like, a weird title because, like, they really don't do any chopping. Like, it's clearly, like, it's a good title, but it
Yeah.
it does not fit the movie at all. Like,
Yeah,
it's I
I've
mean,
seen what they look like, and yeah, that you got to give me at least one good chop.
mhm.
Like there has to be some form of chopping motion or chopping action or something. As far as I know, they're on treads and they have laser beams.
Yeah, they do kill. They have, like, these, like, mandible arm things that, can, like, I guess, stab people, I guess, if they shoot them with enough force. Um So there's a little bit of stabbing, but no real chopping.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something that is not educated. Like I haven't researched this, but I feel like robot monster movies, like movies structured as monster movies with mechanical quote monsters, I feel like they're kind of rare. Like not just in terms of quantity, but especially in terms of quality. Like it's very hard for me to think of like actually very good ones. Like Virus comes
Yeah.
to mind. That one's, I think that's okay. As far as I know, it did very poorly at the box office. I say that one's pretty decent. I know there's like one with Harvey Keitel that's like Saturn something or other. It's like Saturn 3 or some shit that has a big robot thing, and like Kirk Douglas is in there banging people
Yeah.
like you do in space.
I mean, the Terminator
Yeah, I mean
fall in that zone.
Terminator is exceptional. Like
Mhm.
Terminator is basically its own league, though. Like
Yeah.
that's so far beyond everything else.
I have another, I haven't watched it yet, obviously, but I have a Vestron title or
Yeah,
no, Vinegar Syndrome title.
grab it.
Um, and I don't know if it falls into that zone, but it's called Steel and Lace.
Hmm.
Um,
Is
she's
that Kim
tough, she's
Cattrall?
tender, she's all is it? No, it's not. Is it? No. No, I don't know. Claire Wren? I don't know who this is.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's like a cyborg woman who, yeah, she starts to violently do away with the men who wronged her. So
Okay. Yeah,
maybe in
and
that
there's
zone.
like a Deadly Friend. I think that's the Wes Craven
Oh yeah,
movie.
yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
I don't know if I'd call that a really good movie. I mean, it has like Chopping Mall. It has a lovely head explosion, but I don't know if I'd call it like an exceptional horror slash monster movie though.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's a project for another day.
yeah,
Maybe keep that in the back of your mind. But
yeah,
great pick, Brad. A way
yeah.
to
That's
get us rolling with a
more
Vestron
than
pick.
enough on Shopping Mall.
Yeah, seriously, we're 20 minutes deep on this bitch, and somehow we talked exclusively about Shopping Mall. Shit. Okay, so the pick is to me. Now I actually have I have a stack in front of me, Brad, that is arranged by like in order, basically. So I'm not gonna cheat at all. I'm just gonna go straight through this. So I'm going to
Okay.
go from most recent, and we're going back to the past as we go along. So I have here something that I just got the other day because I actually had to buy this sucker twice because I was on vacation recently and I had a porch pirate steal a couple of my movies.
Oof. Ah,
And I
that
was very
sucks.
sour because one of them was John Wick 4, which was
Ooh,
not cheap.
yeah.
And this one was fairly priced, but the point is, I got two Blu-rays jacked from my porch, and
Oof.
that's never
Yeah.
happened in my neighborhood before, and that kind of sucks. So I recently repurchased this since I got back, and I had it delivered to uh, a, s- a different location so I could retrieve it. Anyway, I've only watched one of these movies. It is a 3 pack in one slipcase though in one case, and I have here from Arrow Video the game Trilogy, which came out just this month, only within the past week or so. And this name right here, Yusaku Matsuda, is 100% the reason I bought this. Because, Brad, I'm not sure, not sure how deep this conversation can go, but I'm curious, like, have you ever had like style icons in your life? Have you ever had like, I don't know, people like aspirational figures that you just think they're cool for whatever reason. Have you ever had any people like that?
Mr. Peanut.
I mean, that is a dapper fucking peanut. Like he's got the monocle, he's got the cane, he got the top hat. That is a handsome man.
Yeah. I mean, probably. I don't know if I like. Are you talking just like in the way they model themselves and the way they present
Ju-
themselves,
just
or
in general, like aesthetics is one thing, but also just vibes.
yeah?
And it can be a character. It doesn't actually have to be a person.
For the first season, I was trying to bring the positivity of Ted Lasso into my life, and as the show progressively got worse, I progressively hated everything more. So that was it for a while there. I was trying to model myself after Ted Lasso, and it backfired.
for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And then the real Brad just went
yeah,
just
yeah.
peeled back the skin. Well, I guess not then. And like I said, that's not something everyone can relate to. But I was just curious. I'd throw it out there. So this fella here, he often plays monsters and terrible people. So he's not an aspirational figure in that way. He's not a role model. But this motherfucker is just so damn cool. I mean, look at the big hair. Look at them shades that he wears indoors in daytime. Look at the taxi driver pose. Totally not
Yeah.
a taxi driver pose. He's even doing it in front of a mirror in the movie. Um, Yusaku Matsuda for me, it just so fucking cool. I was introduced to him around like as an actor in college. We watched a Family Game, and he plays a tutor character in that, and he is so intense and unpredictable in that role. I think he won some awards for that performance. Um, and just the energy that he projects and his image, his aesthetic, is just incredible. There's a reason, like truthfully, the first time I saw this motherfucker came in the form of a video game where they used his visage. They contacted the estate of his. He's no longer alive. He died in 1989, I think. Um, they used his image for the video game Onimusha 2 for the PS2. I don't know if you ever played that. Have you, Brad?
No, I don't think so.
Highly recommended. I really love that game. That whole franchise. I'm really sad actually that they don't make them anymore. It was strictly a PS2 era series, but it's a Capcom video game. It's kind of like it's born from the same strain as say Resident Evil, but it's like feudal era Japan and demons and zombies and stuff. So not like bioweapons and stuff. It's demons. It's magical shit. Anyway,
Mhm.
they used his face for the main character in the second game,
Okay.
and I was like, wow, he's kind of cool. And then a few years later, when I got into college, I was introduced to him as an actor, and I was like, this guy's fucking good. And then you read up on him, and he's a very interesting human being, very short-lived human being. I think he didn't. I think he made it to like 40. Uh, you may know him from Black Rain. Have you seen that one, Brad?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's a Ridley Scott film from the tip.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it, but now I know what you're talking about. That's right.
I think sometimes people get confused because I believe there's also a novel and maybe even a movie with that same title about Hiroshima.
Mhm.
It's Japanese novel and film, I believe. Anyway, the Ridley Scott film was his American film debut, and it was also his last performance. And historically, it's known that he was suffering from cancer. I think it was like bladder cancer while they were filming that, and he was refusing chemo, which probably wasn't a good idea. Um, in so he could perform. Like he felt that being in that situation, like undergoing that treatment, would rob something from his performance. And for what little is on screen, it's very very good, but it is very tragic that his potential breakthrough moment into international cinema was the end of the road for him. Anyway, he was this huge style icon all through this very very late 70s and 80s. These films are Toei Productions, which is also producer of many many lovely productions, both animated and live action. I've been watching a lot of Sunny Shiba stuff lately. That's all Toei as well, and Shin Kamen Rider, which I believe your buddy Santino and maybe his buddy Matt, they went to go see. That's also a Toei production.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was very much like a member of the Toei family, the studio system in Japan. Anyway, these movies, the game trilogy, are this is the first time they're, I believe, available in our region in any format. So there's no VHS, there's no DVD. I don't think there were theatrical screenings. Um, and so
First time it says on Arrow's website, released outside of Japan. So first time
that
even,
says that's a
yeah,
big deal actually,
yeah.
because Japan does funnel into other more local markets in Asia as well. There's a reason Jackie Chan has a lot of Japanese targeted productions. If you've ever seen Thunderbolt, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, um, but these movies, because this is the first time they've been released outside of Japan, I was like, holy shit, I need that. Because I've always thought this guy was super fucking cool. I have a DVD of Resurrection of Golden Wolf, which is I think it came out around the same time as these movies. Um, I wouldn't say it's an amazing film, but just something about the dude. Like he's just absolutely magnetic on screen, and I've always felt that way. I've always just had like a attachment or an affinity to him as a performer. So it's just a beautiful opportunity for me to take in more of his work because it has unfortunately been kind of hard to track down in our region. Um, so yeah, huge deal for me. I've only watched one of the three so far. It was very uneven. It is very much a late '70s Japanese film in the like gangster slash tough guy genre. So that I'm used to that rhythm. It has very specific, more relaxed rhythm than I think a lot of contemporary audiences can stomach. Even myself, I grapple with it occasionally, but there's a lot of artful creativity on display in the making of just that first film. I know the cinematographer was Yuji Ono, who is a director in his own right. He made In the Realm of the Senses, which is like an erotic thriller that's very, very, very explicit. He
Ooh.
he has an interesting quality. Brad's saying
Oh
you said
yeah.
the magic word.
I need something to hold me over till my replacement disc for Showgirls gets here. So
Well, there you go. In the realm of the senses, I believe there is most certainly some below the waist mutilation that occurs in that film. Just
just what I'm
saying.
looking for.
You're speaking my language. You just
Yeah.
keep saying all the right things. But yeah, anyway, only watched the one out of the three, but I'm so excited that maybe this means we'll be getting more. Um, there's a handful of other titles in his filmography that I know I would very much like to see, and also a whole ass television series that it's called a detective story or Tante Monogatari. That one of his more iconic looks is comes from that TV series from the '70s. Uh, yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd share just because it's my most recent watch. I watched it last night, and yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about it, but seems pretty cool. And is it like an actual trilogy or is it like a just like thematic
Yeah.
trilogy? Like is he the same character in all of them or
Uh, yeah, it looks like he's playing the same character,
okay. Yeah.
Shohei Narumi, and it says same name for all three movies. So yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I'll say that in terms of like releases like that, I mean, Arrow like they have a good variety. I'm trying to think of a label that is maybe more eclectic and has more variety than Arrow. Like, Arrow's released a lot of great, you know, Asian flicks. They released a lot of horror movies. They released a lot of, like highbrow, classy stuff as well. Like they kind of like do it all. Like,
They also occasionally get like amazing mainstream acquisitions. Like I
yeah,
have on my shelf here an American Werewolf in London and Tremors and
Tremors. Yep.
RoboCop, like
Yep.
the only good RoboCop on 4K right now.
hmm Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just cool that Arrow is putting something like that out, especially with it having never been released outside of Japan officially. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, I didn't start buying their stuff until like the past 2 or 3 years because unfortunately they tend to be prohibitively expensive. This one was discounted, uh, like upon release, which was kind of shocking. But I have noticed like their price range has leveled off a little bit for me, and also their catalog, as you said, it's varied. And in recent years, they've started to kind of like cater to me specifically.
hmm
So like they've kind of become one to watch for me. It wasn't always the case, but in recent years, like I've been very excited about a lot of their catalog.
Yeah, they've definitely. I don't know because this is getting a little off tangent, I guess, but they used to have their Arrow Video, and then they also had their Arrow Academy,
That's right. That's
which
right. Yeah.
I believe Arrow Academy was like their kind of classy stuff. Like I know Cinema Paradiso was a Arrow Academy release. Meanwhile, like Blood Rage was the Arrow Video. So like there's clear separation, but I think they since have just been like, fuck it, like just put them all in one. Like who cares? And I kind of like that.
I mean, whatever they're doing over there, like I said, in recent years, it's been working for me. So I keep it up, man.
Absolutely. I mean, they got me to buy Flatliners for God's sakes.
uh, Not the remake,
No,
right?
no,
Okay.
the
Okay.
original.
Okay. It's the Joel Schumacher movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, got to do it for Joel.
I mean, I've actually been reading on Twitter. There's some swirling rumors about a Batman Forever Schumacher cut coming from Warner Brothers at some point from beyond the grave. Schumacher is one of those filmmakers that like he's passed on now, but like I feel like very few of his movies are legitimately good, but there is almost always subtext that in hindsight actually kind of makes it kind of interesting. And there's always just a wonkiness to his
Mhm.
films that
Yeah.
I kind of like. Like I mean, we've had this discussion before, but I always like when you can see somebody's fingerprints on the thing.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's not a Brett. His movies aren't Brett Ratner productions. Like you can
Mhm.
tell Joel Schumacher made this movie, and he wants you to know that. Like maybe that may be a negative, but it's really important to him that you know that he made this movie. He made these choices, these questionable choices. St. Elmo's Fire is probably still one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done because that was honestly like one of the reasons Kyle and I started doing a podcast is because he just kept teasing me with how awful that movie is, and it really is awful.
Yeah, I actually watched that in a college course once.
On
Yeah.
what?
We were studying Joel Schumacher actually. No, I'm joking.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. It
I
was
should teach that course.
it was a class called Life Journeys.
What the fuck does that mean? You're in college. You're in the middle of one.
Yeah, it was a very, very strange course. I think the reason I took it was, you had the rateyourprofessor.com or
Yeah.
whatever. And I just needed some elective or something. St. Elmo's Fire is the best. Is that Kyle there who just commented?
I have to assume. Oh yeah, that's my
Yeah.
buddy Kyle,
Um,
Incognito Kyle. St. Elmo's Fire is the best. Hot sauce is the
um,
best.
but yeah, I was going on ratemyprofessor.com and I think I saw that this class fit the elective I needed, and there was a bunch of people saying that all you do in this class is watch movies, and I was like, "Fuck it, let's do it." And they were 100% right. That's all we did. We watched Saint Elmo's Fire, um, how to make an American quilt. I think the Winona Ryder movie. Um, what's the movie? Is it Soul Food? Is that
That
I don't
sounds like
remember.
a movie.
Yeah. Very weird class, very weird, but, not bad, not bad. Got to watch some, cross a few things off the bucket list.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk. My the college that I went to had an entire I think year-long program called friendship.
Yeah, that's about what yeah, it's not too far off.
I was never part of that program. I knew some people who were, but it was literally called, and I'm doing the Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat pose, friendship. Anyway, that is enough about my bullshit. Brad, get us another pick. What is your next recent review?
I just wanna say, I actually did really like that professor. I'm still friends with her on Facebook, so I just on the off chance that this is ever, in her in her realm. I just want to say it was great. I liked the class. Just, okay. Anyway,
Just
speaking of
cover your
life,
ass. Cover your ass.
speaking of life journeys, I watched a Criterion film,
Oh,
and this was a great first time watch. It was another movie roulette movie. This is the only movies I watch anymore. Main reviews and movie roulettes. But this was a Criterion release of The Executioner, which is a Spanish film from 1963. And honestly, probably the main reason I purchased this was the cover, which I love the cover, pictured here, but it's probably not a great indication of the movie. Um, this cover makes it seem like it's going to be very comedic, like obviously darkly funny, but definitely seems like it's going to be quite a comedy. And the film is a comedy in a way, but it's very subdued and light in the comedy. Basic plot of it is you have this guy who he marries an undertaker's daughter. Or no, not he marries an executioner's daughter. He is an undertaker who marries an executioner's daughter. And the executioner is this old guy, and he's getting close to retiring. And they're all living together in this very small apartment, but they get the opportunity to move into a bigger apartment because he works for the government. And so it's like a government subsidized apartment kind of thing. But they will end up losing that apartment once the father-in-law, the executioner, retires. So the son has to then take on that job and become an executioner himself, in order to keep his family in that nice apartment. Otherwise, they'd be living out on the streets. And it's kind of a lot of setup with that. And then you get to the final act of the film, and it's him basically trying to delay ever having to do his first execution because the guy just like doesn't want to kill a person. So he keeps hoping that like, the guy's going to get a part in, and it's like kind of there's a little bit of comedy there where he's on vacation because he gets called into this like new city or something where they need a potential executioner, and he keeps hoping that it's going to get called off, and it kind of goes from there. But it's very darkly tragic. Like it's pretty grim. And I will say the climax of this movie, like there's a shot like that's I don't know how famous it is, but if you watch the film, you will absolutely know what like the iconic shot of this movie is, and it is one of the best endings I've seen in a movie in so long. Like I really loved this thing. Apparently, like it's like a huge, maybe not huge, but like it is a pretty well known Spanish film, but never got really much acclaim outside of the country of Spain. And I'm glad I watched it because it is great. I think I would like it even more on a rewatch because I was just kind of expecting something a little bit more just outwardly comedic, and it really isn't that. So it was kind of on me. Just my expectations were a little off, but it's really good.
yeah. Folks at home, if you're not aware, Brad's podcast, the Cinema Speak podcast, he does something. They have their main review, but also at the tail end of every episode, they do micro reviews, where they do literally what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
um, so on Brad's most recent episode, he talked about the Executioner, and I was enthralled with everything you said about that movie. Like I
Mhm.
was like, damn, I need to see that like soon because that sounded fantastic, and it sounds like it has a lot of layers to it. The political aspect of it, I think
Yeah.
the context probably lends quite a lot of weight. Like just being aware of the context of the story.
Yeah, I'm obviously not an expert on Spanish history, but knowing that the country was under some form of authoritarian rule at the time of this lends even more weight to what is happening. The fact that he, is essentially being forced to kill for the state in order to keep his family in a home. Like it's either you kill or your family is going to be out on the street, and it's like, well, what do you do in that regard? Like, is it morally worse to kill somebody who has going to die no matter who does it? Or is it worse to say, I'm not going to do that, but then your family is out on the street and who knows, they could die. Like it's, it's pretty heavy stuff. But there is definitely comedic beats in there as well. Like there's a moment where, the main character, his wife is like, I'm going to go buy you a new necktie. And she's like, what's your size? And he's like, oh, I don't know what my size is. And the father-in-law, the executioner, looks at his neck for a split second and he's like, oh, he's a 42. And the guy's like, oh yeah, that's right. I am a 42. That's right. Like, just kind of some kind of good stuff like that.
He just eyeballs him. He's just like, trust me. Trust me.
Yeah.
Tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. That's what was kind of interesting, is because you show me the cover and then you tell me what it's about, and it's like, it sounds like kind of a grim story. But everything that you were saying just now and with Santino, like, it sounded like a very enjoyable watch overall.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I really want to see that. Everything you said about it made it sound very fascinating. And also, like, it's not a 1-to-1. Like, they're totally different movies from what I can tell, but I couldn't help but think of the Japanese film Departures, Okuribito. Just because there was one thing that you said on your micro review about there being a social taboo about him being an undertaker and her being an executioner's daughter, about basically people who handle the dead. There's a social or cultural taboo associated with those things. And in Departures, there's a similar thing as well, where it's like, in that film, it's about a young man learning how to perform like a ritualistic funeral service. And in being a person who handles the dead, it's like, oh, he's a strange person. Like, we shouldn't associate with him. So I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting idea. Like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the TV show 6 Feet Under as well, about a family running a funeral home. But yeah, like the idea of, somebody, even in today's day and age, when there is an execution, there's still somebody. I don't know exactly how it plays out, but there's still somebody who's doing something that is the method that leads to that execution. And obviously I think it's more humane now than it probably was back then in the 60s, but still pretty fascinating to think like that is what somebody does. Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah, there's still got to be somebody to push the button.
Yeah.
Although, uh, I don't know anything about this, but with all the AI talk and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lobby or something for removing that person that pushes that button, which
I
is
think,
feels disgusting in some way.
yeah, I was going to say, at first my thought was like, I think that's an okay use of AI, the fact that you wouldn't have to have somebody do the actual killing. But the more I think about it, it's like that feels like a step where that could lead to some issues.
Yeah, it's like,
Where
let's make killing people
yeah,
easier.
we're sanctioning the AI. Like, you can, okay, go ahead, you can kill. Like, yeah, and it's like, maybe we better not go down that road.
Yeah, Revy's Revenge. Folks at home, if you're not aware, you should check out the quote Revy saga of the Cinema Speak podcast.
Yeah,
That's what you need, Brad. That's actually how you'll know you've, like, how we'll know we've made it as podcasters. If we have a chronicle.
Yeah.
If you can hop on Wikipedia and you can break down your seasons into sagas,
Yeah,
like Dragon
yeah.
Ball Z or something, where it's like there's the Garlic Junior saga. The Revy saga would be that. It's a mini saga in the greater Cinema Speak universe.
Yeah, a story played out over three reviews.
It's riveting drama, though.
Yeah,
High
yeah.
tension. This fucker fooled me on Twitter. He made an ass of me in public.
Yeah, that was, I honestly thought you were playing along with the bit, and
No.
then I realized
I wasn't. I was
Yeah.
a dipshit. I didn't know. It's
that was fun
I
to
thought
do.
it was hilarious. Like, in
Yeah.
retrospect, I was like, that was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Brad has a lovely show. Definitely check it out. But
Thank
and
you,
also
thank you.
apparently check out The Executioner, because I know it's on my to-do list because of
Yep.
everything said just now.
It is streaming on the Criterion channel, I believe. So that's, if you don't want to purchase it,
check it out. RoboCop and The Executioner.
Yeah.
Double feature. Okay, so the pick is to me again. So I'm gonna grab. Like I said, I'm just running straight through here. So if you have my letterboxd open, you can remove all the tension with all of my picks if you just go straight down the list. So I have here a movie that I only watched a couple of days ago, and it was also a June 2023 release. Very, very, very fitting. This is some cross promotional synergy stuff. In fact, I'm going to take another title off this list here and do a twofer because it's my damn show and I'm going to cheat all I like. So I have two titles I have here in my hands. I believe both of these were June 2023 releases, and I just mentioned, I believe the reasoning for this was cross promotional synergy. And I'll explain in just a second here. So I have uh, a very recent watch just the other day, Sakra, starring and directed by, although there is a co-director listed in the credits for the film, Donnie Yen. This is a wuxia film from Donnie Yen, which for me is a bit of a problem. I personally am not a huge like historical fantasy film lover when it comes to Chinese cinema. I find it largely impenetrable because there's just so much cultural insight that you need to have going into so many of these that oftentimes it's very easy to get lost and like the story doesn't make any goddamn sense because the filmmakers are banking on you having grown up with some measure of this stuff. um the wire work, the like the fanciful wire work and stuff doesn't bother me, but just as a personal preference, it's not my preferred style of martial arts on film. Just martial arts on film is basically my favorite thing in the world, but that like kind of heavy wire work, heavy use of CGI and magical powers and stuff like chi powers and stuff is it's just not really my cup of tea. But this is 2023 Donnie Yen in a film that he directed, which is not something he does all the time. He has a handful of movies he's directed. Um, Usually, he's kind of eccentric as a filmmaker. His stuff from the '90s is just like trippy as shit. Like his cinematography and his editing is out of control in his '90s stuff. It's I think it's like Legend of the Wolf or a New Fist of Fury and Ballistic Kiss, which makes a lot of Ballistic Kiss in particular has like a crazy color palette, but Legend of the Wolf has some of the zaniest fucking editing I've ever seen in action filmmaking. It's bizarre. Anyway, this is his most recent film. And also, I have a film that I reviewed for Catching Up on Cinema. Also, I believe dropped this month on Blu-ray. Fist of the Condor, which stars Marco Zaror. Now, if I hold these two people up, Brad, are you aware of the connection between these two guys?
You're gonna have to jog my memory here.
So, both of these fellas have roles in John Wick Chapter 4.
Ah, okay.
Marco Zaror plays basically the chief heavy in the film, and Donnie Yen plays, he's like a co-star essentially. And it just so happens that John Wick Chapter 4 also dropped on Blu-ray this month. So just so happens both of these guys had movies they were starring in. May as well release them the same month as one of the biggest movies of the year. Um, Cross promotional synergy is what comes to mind. Anyway, I did a whole episode on Fist of the Condor. It was a solo episode, so I don't blame me if you didn't listen to it. But this is Marco Zaror reunited with Ernesto Diaz Espinoza. Both are Chilean. They have worked together many, many times. He's kind of like the Leo DiCaprio for Mr. Diaz Espinoza. And if you don't get the connection, basically he's his muse. He works with him all the time. This is a fun traditional martial arts movie, but it's Chilean, so it has an interesting flavor to it. Well-made movie on the whole, although very much feels like a live-action anime in the strangest of ways. Not so much in terms of like the action design, more just in terms of the pacing. Like it feels like episodes of Fist of the North Star or Dragon Ball Z or something, where it is in no hurry to get anywhere a lot of the time, and it's very fascinating to watch because of that. Where it's like I've seldom watched a movie, like a live action movie, that made me think of watching those weekly animated TV shows in this way. So good on them if that was their mission statement. If that wasn't, then they made kind of a slowly paced action movie.
Is it long or is it
It's probably not. Which Brad, this is a slight on their part. 81 minutes.
wow, not even
Wow.
long at
It's
all.
not even long at all.
Yeah. Wow.
But the way it's paced out. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's boring or anything, but it doesn't have like a propulsive energy to it. Like it doesn't have the momentum that you would expect from your typical action film. Um, but yeah, both of these are okay. I wouldn't say either of them represents the best of either person's work, of which both of them have some serious high highs on their filmographies. Um, I think I would favor Fist of the Condor over the two of them, just because of the novelty factor of I don't get to see Marcos Aurora all the time, nor do I ever have an excuse to watch Chilean cinema. And also Sakra, just the action design. By the way, it's done by funny connection, Brad. The choreographer of Sakra is a frequent collaborator with Donnie Yen. He's a Japanese fellow by the name of Kenji Tanigaki, who also did the choreography for Snake Eyes.
Oh, classic.
Classic.
Now, was this the guy that you were like super hyped for, and then they like butchered his work or
Yes,
something?
Brad, I was super hyped for that in Snake Eyes, and then we went to see that piece of shit, and the movie stinks. Even the
Yeah.
action sucks.
I
Yeah,
remember you messaged me and you're like, "Mark me down for the Snake Eyes review," and I was like, "Really?" I
yeah.
was like, "Okay."
I'm sorry, Brad. Like I should mail you $15 or
No,
something for your ticket price.
no, that's okay. I mean, we got a full episode out of it, so
Oh,
it all paid off. But yeah,
yeah.
it was a stinker. But
It
because
was a stinker.
am I remembering right? Are those the guys that like weren't they on YouTube or something? Or
No, 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 no.
that's
That's the Lee brothers, Andy and Brian. From I think their thing on YouTube is called Marshall Club. They were in Everything Everywhere All at Once
that's what I'm thinking
and
of.
Paper Tigers, and Andy was in Shang Chi.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything everywhere all at once. Snake Eyes,
Same difference,
close enough, right? I
same
mean,
tier of filmmaking.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, Kenji Tanigaki, he has worked as like assistant choreographer on a lot of more recent Donnie Yen productions. Donnie Yen kind of prides himself on doing like going about his martial arts choreography from the Bruce Lee school of whatever works. He's not like super dogmatic about like we only do the one style in this movie or whatever. He and Sammo Hung both are really good about representing and exploring other styles of martial arts on film. Um, and Kenji, he did the choreography for the Rurouni Kenshin movies. And the sword work that he did for those films and the wire work, the very, very innovative wire work that he introduced into those films, the very subtle wire work that he introduced into those films was tremendous. As it's a style unto itself, and it's absolutely brilliant to watch on screen. However, they went too hard in Sakra. He also worked on this film, and like I said, what's here is good. Like the action component, the martial arts component, is objectively good. Like it's a high degree of quality. It has a lot of impact. Pretty violent too. Pretty savage. There's some delimbings in this movie, and lots of people spitting up blood and stuff and getting smashed into stone walls. It's pretty cool. It's just a little too much. Where it's just like people are just fucking flying off all over the place and bouncing off the walls. People are doing crazy fucking projectile Buddha palms that knock people across the room and stuff. It's just a little it's just a little much for me personally, but it is of a high standard of quality. So I can't say it's bad, just not for me.
Is it
And
at
also,
least
Donnie Yen is starting to look kind of weird in his advanced years. His eyes in particular are troubling. It looks like he's had I know he's had work done. I know he's had, I believe, the surgery, but I think he's had some additional stuff done, some Sylvester Stallone esque stuff done in recent
Mm.
years.
Is that why they covered his eyes in John Wick? Like they made him blind?
Maybe he recently had surgery. Like that's a fun theory. Maybe he was still recovering from surgery and he was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, so I've played a blind guy before. Could we just like do that
Yeah.
again?"
Could
Like
be.
I've
Yeah.
only got like a couple of weeks on the calendar, so this whole mess, unless you want this in your film, Mr. Stahelski, who seems very, very interested in aesthetic presentation and stuff, like unless you want this mess, we're gonna have to wear some shades.
Hmm. Would you say that movie is at least a little better, like more indicative of the stunt coordinator guy's abilities over Snake Eyes? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's what's there is very good. It's it's just a preference thing. Where it's like if you're into lots and lots of wire work and CGI, um, then it'll be great. The plot might be difficult to follow, as I said, tends to be symptomatic of this particular genre for non-Chinese viewers. But yeah, I was just like, it's new Donnie Yen. He directed it, so I was fascinated. But I watched it; it was fine.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah. Well, good double feature right there.
Yeah, I figured I'd knock them both out, being as they were literally on top of each other, and there's a connection there.
And both from this year, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're
Nice.
both new
Nice.
releases.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. I'd be curious to check them out. I mean, I kind of agree with you in terms of the style for Sakra. I don't know if that'd be my style either, but your complaints about Fist of the Condor and the 81-minute runtime definitely
It's
maybe
troubling,
scared
yeah.
me off that one a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, we got to cure your buddy's action blindness someday. So
Hmm.
like maybe I can write up a menu for him, and maybe you can spoon feed it to him. Like you can serve as the conduit for it all.
Yeah, we need a prescribing Charlie in terms
Yeah.
of action cinema.
Action blindness is a disease, man.
Yeah,
We need to spread awareness.
yeah.
Like much like the organization problem with movies, like we could save lives, Brad. Like there's so
Yeah,
many children on this planet who are suffering from action blindness in silence because
yeah,
they are so ashamed to admit it in public. Your buddy Charlie is very brave, Brad.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's just like what's the thing of face blindness?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
Brad Pitt and his face blindness. That's right.
does he have face blindness?
I think he does. I
Oh,
think
I
I
didn't.
think that's what I heard.
I think maybe I did know that, but just the idea that like you could have face blindness and not even know it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Did you know
you could
that?
have action blindness and not even know it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can guess what the action is based on everything surrounding it, and it just kind of you fill in the gaps. Like people that have face blindness, they can tell who people are based on their voice, their smell,
Mhm.
their height. But
Yeah.
they don't even realize that everybody like it's wild, wild to think about.
Yeah, next time you see Charlie, just put your hand on his shoulder for me and just remind him of how brave he is.
Yeah.
Just please, he
I
needs to
will.
hear
I will. I will.
that. Okay, Fred. What is your next pick? What is your next recent review?
Well, let me ask you a question. That Sakra flick, what country is that from?
That is, I not positive if it's a Hong Kong or China production, but China, because Hong Kong's apparently now part of that now.
Well, let's go to that side of the globe for mine. Not from where the film originated, but where it takes place. Because I'll talk about a movie I watched for first time watch. I watched M Butterfly, the David Cronenberg flick. I've been going through Cronenberg's filmography. Hit a little bit of a wall lately because I just watched Crash last year, like last October or something like that, November. But I feel like I have to rewatch it because like I have to commit to just the nonstop watching every single one. So that's I'm just that's taking me a minute to rewatch that one in such a short time. But anyway, M Butterfly I hadn't seen, and I did purchase the Blu-ray from Shout Select here, and I really have to say I enjoyed M Butterfly quite a bit. Now, there is kind of there's a weird thing with the movie in terms of what it's about and the plot. So I'm just gonna ask Trevor, do you know of any kind of twist involving this movie or what the general plot is about? Because I knew what the twist was, if it even is a twist. I don't even. It's hard to talk about.
Um, I'm going to say no, but I suspect I do know, but I'm going to assume I don't.
Okay, so basically, it's a love story, and that's all I can say without spoiling the twist. But so like, it's hard to talk about.
Is
And
John Lone in that movie, by the way?
John Lone is in that movie.
Yeah,
So you might maybe know what I'm getting
I
at with
I
this.
think I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so it's I knew that going in,
Yeah.
and I won't say what the twist is, but you're watching this movie, and John Lone is a pretty. I'm sure he was much bigger name at the time, but he's a known actor. And some people criticized David Cronenberg's choice to cast John Lone and to very prominently feature John Lone's name on the poster and in the opening credits, because does that give something away? You know what I mean? Like the fact that
Oh, yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, all right, here's M. Butterfly, Jeremy Irons, and John Lone, and you're watching the movie and you're like, wait a second, wait, huh? Um, and so I will say I really like the movie aesthetically. I like its ideas. I like its themes about um the idea of like in a relationship you may, not see the real person for who they are, and you may intentionally project what you want them to be. And there's some really interesting ideas in terms of like relationships and identity there. But I was really like sort of like torn on this like twist, because like the way that the twist is like slowly parceled out, I'm like, what is the thing going? And I'm thinking I knew the whole time what the twist was, but I'm thinking like people watching this for the first time, even them, I'm like, I feel like it's obvious what the reveal is, and it's not even really a twist because it's so obvious. And I watched there's an interview with Cronenberg on this Blu-ray, and I liked his explanation. He says the twist isn't the audience finding out that information. He says he wanted that information to be obvious from the get-go. He says the real, like, not necessarily twist, but the real question is, does Jeremy Irons know that information? And the whole question, and we never really get a straight answer, but the whole movie is, does Jeremy Irons realize this secret? Is he um, hiding it from himself? Is he in denial? Does he know and not care, but doesn't acknowledge it? So there's, an interesting ways you can look at it. And I actually do like that explanation that Cronenberg gives. It could be just potential, maybe it's just bullshit and he's just looking for, but it's if it's bullshit, it's a good answer. Like it's a good way to say why he like structured it that way. I do think they could have maybe, if he really wanted to lean into that, they could have made the reveal very like obvious. Like they could have like straight up said at the start of the movie what the reveal. But either way, it's very good. It's surprisingly like you would say it's not super Cronenbergian because of it's not a horror movie, but it feels like pretty in line with a lot of his ideas and stuff, especially like the final 10 minutes. While not necessarily like horror, they are slightly Cronenbergian. And yeah, I actually liked it quite a bit. It was good.
Yeah, it's funny actually because like regardless of how that reveal or whatever you want to call it is handled in the movie, just the subject matter, like regardless of big twists or reveals or whatever, just that subject matter seems very Cronenbergian.
Hmm.
Like the man has an eye for examining tensions in relationships and particularly like intense and unique tensions. Um, so many images come to mind when I think of his filmography. Um, like The Fly, obviously, is a really, really big one. The things that those two that man and that woman go through are super intense and super crazy, and then Crash, obviously. Um, that just seems like it has. It seems like a script that would have interested him to begin with. Like I don't know if he wrote it himself. I think isn't there an opera by that name as well?
Well, it's the opera I think is technically called Madame Butterfly, I wanna
Correct. Yeah.
say. And so the movie it makes reference
Okay.
to
Okay.
that
So
opera. So it's kind of
it's not explicitly just a retelling. It references it though.
yeah, yeah, and it is based on a play, and it is based on a true story.
Okay.
So and I think Cronenberg said he saw the play and was so struck by it, that he pitched it as his next flick. And interesting that the play, the John Lone character was played by is it I think it's is it BD Wong
Yeah. Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Jurassic Park? What I think was might have been his like breakout role, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that. I have a friend who's a pretty big fan of BD Wong. I remember them
Yeah,
telling me
yeah,
about that a long time ago.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I have to imagine. So I've been looking up the timeline here just because I was curious. 1993, Cronenberg was probably riding quite high, being as I believe Dead Ringers probably fetched some awards at the very least for Jeremy Irons, who is of course also in this. Do you think this may have been like a little bit of a passion project kind of situation where it's like take advantage of that clout and just make something because it's something that's speaking to me in this moment kind of thing?
I would say so in the fact that being like when you're at the top, you kind of get the freedom to branch out if you want.
Exactly.
He didn't need to do another horror movie because he could tackle it. And that's what's kind of interesting about Cronenberg in the '90s is he really doesn't do much horror. I mean,
Hmm.
um, you got Naked Lunch, which I mean, it's got those elements in there, but it's not a horror movie.
No,
Um, Crash isn't really a horror movie. I mean,
no.
Existenz, I guess, would probably fit in that zone. But I do like that he branched out in the '90s. And I wouldn't say any of those are like my favorite of his, but I mean, he's got a really interesting filmography when you look at it. Like he, he kind of reminds me of Weezer. Like he's got his peaks and then he's got his valleys, but it's always just like an interesting trajectory to follow. Like
He's
for
got that
every
one song slash movie that everybody keeps asking him to talk about that he doesn't want
yeah,
anything to do with anymore.
it's like for every Videodrome, there's a Ratitude. For every Cosmopolis, there's a Blue album. Just like very all over the place, but very cool.
Yeah, no, Cronenberg is long. Like I have to say, like even though I haven't seen everything he's done, he probably is like one of the most important filmmakers for me, and it sounds like maybe you too. Um, Easily like top three candidates for filmographies I would love to just ingest all of,
Hmm.
and probably I
Yeah.
would love it. So I've actually been kind of jealous of you coming in with your micro reviews fairly consistently recently because I'm just like, I've been saying I've been wanting to do that for a really long time, and I'm serious. I really would love to do that. In fact, I watched the Dead Zone
Mm.
because you had mentioned it on your show on the Cinema Speak podcast not too long ago,
Hmm.
and it was great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's 1-2 punch. You got Stephen King, David Cronenberg. How could it go? How could you go wrong? Plus Christopher Walken yelling about ice.
Hmm. It's interesting though, like with that movie, Stephen King and David Cronenberg, and that's another one that's not really a horror movie. Like
No,
you have
no,
two of the biggest names in horror, and they make sci-fi-ish, very just like human-driven drama.
yeah,
Um, that still has at least one amazing horror moment involving the scissors, which is just amazing. Classic
it was
Cronenberg.
pretty cool. You
Yeah.
didn't undersell it when you
Oh,
did your micro review.
the way the leather sounds of his, like, I don't know if it's the gloves or the coat he's wearing, but, like, when he, like, it's just so good.
Yeah. By the way, I couldn't help myself. I had to check the timeline. Crying Game came out in 1992. Uh,
Okay, yeah,
so
and
yeah,
they do
just throwing that out there.
I forget they do reference, I think, in the interview, he does bring up the crying game, and I think he because I've never seen that, but I do believe that is like a twist, like at the end, like a reveal. Like
Yeah.
I think it brings it up in regards that he didn't want it to play like that.
I
Um,
I would expect everybody involved in the film to be aware of, the cultural impact of something that came out that recently.
yeah, that might have been why it might have been criticized initially, and that it didn't do that because I guess that would have been the obvious thing to do, and they thought it would. It's odd that they went the route they did,
Yeah.
because I can't really point to one moment in the movie where someone would be like, ah, like the light, like there's definitely moments where I think like, okay, by now I think people would get it, but maybe not. Like they never really explicitly say it until the very end, but I think by that point, I mean, he'd have to be stupid not to know, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's many, many ways to tell a story, but there are certain ways that are in general preferred. Like there's certain like grammar or punctuation to the flow of a narrative that sometimes it just feels a little wonky. Like it feels like something needed to have more weight or something needed to make more noise. But hey, Cronenberg's a pretty good filmmaker. I would trust him to know how to make a fucking film,
Yeah.
especially at that point in his career when he had already done so much and
Hmm.
continues to do great work.
Also, love how nearly all of his, I think maybe all, but at least nearly all of his films are at least partially shot in and around Toronto or somewhere
Mhm.
in Canada, which is very cool that he's consistently, he's been a popular filmmaker, but consistently stayed a Canadian filmmaker as well, which is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I think that's beautiful. That little bit of loyalty. It's kind of beautiful. I like that.
I think he was granted like the Royal Honor of Canada or something at some
He
point.
should. I mean, in terms of like cultural impact from a Canadian citizen internationally in the world of film and art, yeah, give the man the fucking keys to the castle. Like he deserves it.
Officer of the Order of Canada. There you go.
It's like when Gangnam Style came out. They gave him the
Yeah.
fucking seal of approval from the Korean government.
Yep.
Because really, when you think about the impact that had, that kicked down that made a bridge between Korea and the rest of the world, and now they dominate
Mhm.
so much of pop culture and art
It's
and
true.
media.
It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never thought of it, but you're right.
Psy,
Yeah.
man. Don't sleep on Psy. He's
Yeah.
Korean ambassador to the world. Anyway, so I suppose the pick is to me. Brad, how we doing on time? You want to call this the last one or two more?
Yeah, I mean, we'll yeah, maybe we'll do one more, but I'll be quick on the next one probably.
Okay. Well, I'll probably be quick on this one too then. So I have here, uh, funny enough, looks like I had a certain someone on the mind the past month or so. Actually, this is just a case of the Blu-ray just came out. Actually, this was within the past few months, so this isn't a completely new arrival, but this was a belated birthday gift. So this was something that the, the girlfriend, I had a birthday at the end of May, and the girlfriend like coaxed
Happy
out of
birthday.
me. It's a month down the line, but thanks, I appreciate
I don't
it.
think that I don't think I knew that. So maybe I did.
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't advertise it. I'm in my mid 30s, Brad. You just That's just not
I
done.
don't know.
I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm a dude in America. We don't do that.
Mhm.
I'm a damn Asian cowboy. I eat baked beans for dinner and crap dirt. So I have here. Uh, this was a gift from the girlfriend and a belated birthday gift because apparently she decided to buy it directly from the distributor, and they sent a poster that she didn't want or I didn't want, but it's cool bonus. And yeah, it didn't arrive until like several weeks after the birthday. Anyway, I have here from Shout Factory, the Tiger Cage collection,
Ooh.
which is a trilogy of Hong Kong films from the 80s. Uh, and these are two of these feature Donnie Yen, one of which features Michael Wong. Um, But all three of these, I believe, are directed by Yun Wu Ping, who is, of course, a famed choreographer of Chinese and Hong Kong films. You will know him, of course, as the choreographer of the Matrix trilogy, not
Mm.
that fourth one. That was one of the Wachowskis. Maybe should have rethought that. Moving on. These are lovely Hong Kong cops and robbers films that feature one of my favorite things, and that is uh, absurd and lengthy martial arts sequences in a modern context. I'm a huge fan of that. I love seeing men and women in modern attire throw hands in the middle of the fucking street where it makes no goddamn sense to the plot and the logic of the film, but it's just cool. I'm a huge fan of contemporary martial arts films, not so much like the period stuff that I talked about in Sakra. But these are all contemporary cops and robbers movies, feature a lot of gunplay, very expertly choreographed, in a similar style to like a John Woo movie, but obviously not done by John Woo, so not as much slow motion and zero doves. Um, and of course, what martial arts is on display in these films is magnificent. Less so in the third one, but that is because Donnie Yen is only in the first two. And his role in the first one is he's very much a background player, but he does get a showcase. He gets a showcase scene where the movie just stops dead so he can beat two dudes' asses, and then shocking twist, gets shot in the fucking face in a shocking moment of violence that is really really cool actually, where it's like,
Really?
well, like especially like with who Donnie Yen is in cinema today, like this was very very early in his career, so this is when he was just kind of like handsome guy that takes his shirt off and throws kicks and stuff, and or just shows up for the action scenes, and then it's like, shut up, Donnie, you suck at this acting stuff. Still not very good, but he got a little better.
Mhm.
um but yeah, when he eats shit in the first one, when he gets shot in the fucking face, it's pretty tasty. And because of who he is today, and because he's, big as life and twice as ugly on the cover of this box set, because he's Donnie fucking Yen, of course he would do that, regardless of how big his role is in these movies. It's a impactful moment where it's like, oh damn, like the whole reason I'm watching this movie just ate shit in the middle of it. The second movie I actually already had on DVD. I knew it by its reputation, so I actually bought it on DVD years ago, because I was very very curious around the time Donnie Yen was doing collaborations with director Wilson Yip in the form of SPL and Flashpoint and Dragon Tiger Gate and Yip Man. Like around that time, like in the mid to late 2000s, I was starting to get interested in checking out his earlier filmography. So I did so via Tiger Cage 2 and In the Line of Duty 4. Um, and yeah, he's great in Tiger Cage 2, which also features Robin Shaw, or Shu. I'm not sure on the pronunciation of that. That's Liu Kang from the Mortal Kombat film, the Paul W.S. Anderson directed one. He plays the bad guy. So if you've ever wanted to see what he's actually capable of, uh, choreographer Yun Wu Ping really does put him through the paces, and you get to see him square off with Donnie Yen. It's pretty fucking cool. And both Tiger Cage 2 and In the Line of Duty 4 feature Donnie Yen working with a couple of Westerners that he often worked with, John Salviti and Michael Woods. They both have excellent scenes in both of those movies, in particular Tiger Cage 2. But yeah, Tiger Cage 3 is weird. Like it has like a noirish vibe to it. It has like a femme fatale element to this, like that is central to the plot. That's like most of the movie is devoted to close-ups of a very beautiful woman's face, because they knew what they were working with. It's like, okay, we have some pretty talented stunt people working on this movie, but really most of our budget went to securing her, and we are going to shoot the fuck out of her face. So like that's the majority of the runtime of the movie, but in between all that you do get um a little bit of like Phantom of the Opera, or like almost like Dark Man kind of shit going on, where there's a dude who suffers really bad burns partway through the movie, and then for the rest of the movie he's wearing like a metallic face covering, and he does the "oh no, don't look at me" while he like tries to serve as her like guardian angel of sorts, or dark protector or whatever.
Yeah, I see him on the cover there.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that made me think of Darkman, although unfortunately no carnival scene. I would have really appreciated that, because the carnival scene in Darkman is one of Sam Raimi's greatest contributions to film. But yeah, Tiger Cage trilogy, a lot of fun. Really, the third one's the only one that is a little bit of a dip in quality. The other two have a lot of that. They call it Hong Kong magic, where there was just this stretch in Hong Kong action cinema that were they just could not miss. Like, just everything was incredible. Even the lesser productions were just had an energy to them that was undeniable. And Tiger Cage 1 and 2 certainly have that. 3, it's like parts of it are good, but it's not on the same level.
Now, did I misunderstand, or did you say is Donnie Yen in the first two?
Yes, he is.
But he gets shot in the face.
It- he's playing different characters.
Okay.
None of these movies are connected.
Oh, they're not.
They have the first two movies have a lot of repeat actors. Like,
Okay.
there's a lot of carryover of the cast and of course the director. But no, there's no continuing storyline. And in
Okay.
fact, the Tiger Cage movies and the In the Line of Duty movies, if you look up their titles on like IMDb or some shit, you will be confused as shit. Like, it's like Final Fantasy in the West versus Final Fantasy in Japan. It's just like, how many titles we got? We got like 5 titles. It's like Zombie. It's like the Lucio Fulci Zombie movie.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is this movie called? It's
Yep,
like anything directed by an Italian horror filmmaker, honestly.
Okay, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get
Okay.
it. You
Okay.
get it. Brad gets it. Brad
Yeah.
knows exactly what I'm talking about.
No, that seems like a cool set, and I was looking up. They got some good bonus features on all the movies as well, and um, I definitely think I am in your camp in terms of the martial arts films. I definitely prefer the contemporary stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a foundational element to like cultural insight that you need to have in order to
Yeah.
really get the historical fantasy stuff, like wuxia in particular. There's a reason it has its own genre name, because it is very much its own thing. And I feel like if you weren't raised on the shit, it is borderline impenetrable at times.
Hmm.
Whereas the more modern stuff is like, it's a cops and robbers movie. It's just every once in a while they get they get their guns kicked out of their hands, so they got to kick each other for 5 minutes, and it's like, sure, more of that. Why not?
What'd you pulling up your letterbox now? What'd you give these bad boys?
Oh, I'm terrible at remembering star ratings. I probably shot right straight down the middle as I usually do, like 3.5 or 4 to Tiger Cage 1 and 2.
Yeah, 3.5 for Tiger Cage 1, 4 for Tiger Cage 2.
That
Yeah.
sounds right. Tiger Cage 2 is exceptional. Like,
Yeah.
there's a
Okay.
reason I already had it on
That's
DVD,
yeah, yeah, it makes
because
sense.
I knew about it. Like, that was one of the few that found its way over here before Donnie Yen became the highest paid actor in China, aside
Mhm.
from Jing Wu or Wu Jing or however you say his name. I still don't get the appeal of that guy. What the fuck? Why did they pick him, Brad? Tell me this. Where is Babu? Show me Babu.
Yeah, I don't
Seriously,
know.
Jingwoo, why him? Like, is it because he's like a little bit taller or something? like is the extra couple of inches? I don't fucking know. But for some reason, Chinese cinema will just rip open their wallets. Like movie audiences, they'll just rip open their wallets and just say, "Here, take it, take all of it." He's in the fucking Meg too.
I
What
mean,
the?
I'm excited.
Why him? Seriously.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, he's all right. He and Donnie Yen have one of the most incredible fights of the 2000s in action cinema in SPL. Have you seen that, Brad?
No, I know. I'm sure you've talked to me about it before because the title
I
sounds
most
familiar.
certainly have, but I would highly recommend that one. That strikes a really lovely balance of being, a gangster film that also happens to have incredible martial arts. It's mostly a cop drama, punctuated by some of the most incredible martial arts sequences of its era. The alley fight between he and Donnie Yen is legitimately one of the most incredible things put to film.
Hmm.
Honestly, only difference is Donnie Yen has like a natural charisma to him. He's got the juice, man. He's got that juice. Jingwoo, I don't get it, man. I don't. I mean, I guess I'm an American. I don't have the cultural insight. But that anyway, I'm done. He's in the Meg too. He did something right.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Wandering Earth 1 and 2 or whatever, and Wolf
Mm-hmm.
Warrior 1 and 2, and all these fucking films that I keep hearing about, and all these
He
war
brings in the
films.
bucks.
He
Yeah.
brings in the bucks, and I don't know why. Anyway, I'm
Sounds
done.
like me and Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, don't get me started on him. He keeps trying to sell me Mint Mobile.
Yeah.
Like, motherfucker, you cashed out. I heard about that.
Yep.
You jumped off the boat and you're still trying to sell me that garbage.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of which, that is my pick. Brad, what is your next recent review?
I've only got really two left, so I'm good to just do back to back on these and speed round it from here because
Cool.
I've got two. This one is two films, and it is. I've talked to you a bit about this set, so we don't need to go too far into it. But I watched two films from the film noir, The Dark Side of Cinema collection. This is volume one, from Kino Lorber, and it does contain 5 films. I have watched the first 2, and I haven't watched the rest. I watched Witness to Murder and He Ran All the Way. Um, Basically, this is a collection of just film noir flicks. Kino has put out like I think they're on like 16 set of the like. There's like a ton. Um, I have seen some people like say that their definition of a noir, it gets very loose as these sets continue to go on. Which if you're going to put out 16 collections, and you might just continue if you got a film from the 50s that has any sort of crime element in it, you're just going to label it a noir and throw it in there. But I think these first 2 I watched fit pretty snugly into the noir camp. Witness to Murder, it's basically kind of like a play on Rear Window, although weirdly enough, it did come out like a month before Rear Window, where a woman witnesses a murder from across the street through the window. She saw it. Speaking of Barbara Stanwyck, who I got confused with Barbara Crampton. That's why I was thinking of Barbara Stanwyck. She's in this. And basically, the cops don't believe her. They try and tell her she's crazy. And we follow her trying to prove that she's not crazy and that she saw what she saw. And we also spend some time with the murderer and watch him try and cover his tracks. And yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a solid little film. He Ran All the Way is also good. I don't know. I feel like people really like from at least letterbox ratings. People seem to prefer this movie. He Ran All the Way. I just thought it lost momentum in the middle, but it does have a great ending. And it stars John Garfield, who he's a criminal who basically takes this family hostage and stays in their apartment with them. And it's kind of like that. What was that movie that directed by Jason Reitman, Labor Day, with Josh Brolin and Kate Winslet? The classic flick.
Sure. Yeah.
I never seen it, but
I don't think I've actually watched a Jason Reitman film, if I'm being honest.
yeah. Well, you're not missing too much.
That's what I hear.
But yeah, no, it is good. And the sad thing is that it is, I think, the final film from John Garfield. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool collection of films, and there's so many of these, but they did recently just reissue this first box. So I picked it up in the most recent Kino sale, and the only downside is, I mean, you get $5, and in the or 5 movies, and in the Kino sale, I think this set was like $25, so pretty good deal. But I mean, there's really no bonus features on any of these. It's just the movies. I think there's a trailer on all of them. So that's a little disappointing. Actually, it's maybe more than a little. It's kind of lame. But yeah, I don't know. I've wanted to. They keep pumping these sets out, and I'm like, well, I can't just start at number 7. And so when they put out volume 1 again, I said, let's do it. Let's pop on it. Let's go all in. So I did.
Yeah, I feel like for me, noir is probably my biggest blind spot when it comes to American cinema, like genres. That is, um, that and westerns. Noir, especially though,
Yeah.
because noir is like westerns have this relationship to contemporary cinema as well, but like noir is one of those things that it has like pretty distinctively like branched off into, it's mutated essentially into neo noir and other subgenres that are evocative of the source material but are distinctly their own thing. And westerns the same thing. Like a lot of people, like a lot of film heads, like people who know quite a lot more than myself, would tell you that if you catch up on western cinema, like western films, not like films from the west, but like films about like cowboys and stuff, as well as noir, you'll find the DNA of those movies just etched into most movies that exist, honestly.
Hmm.
And that's probably very true. But yeah, like true noir cinema, like from the period where it was booming, is something that I have virtually no insight into. So I've like ever since you told me that you picked up that box set and we're going to actually take a look at it and stuff, I've been like, man, I should do that. Like a lot of times Brad does that. He'll dip his toes into these arenas that I'm very curious about, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to go on that same journey as well. And it's not like, have you been enjoying it so far?
Yeah, I mean, I liked both of the films. I don't know. Hopefully, I'll keep continuing watching them. I mean, they're all pretty short. Like, I think, yeah, none of them are over 90 minutes, which is a
Hey.
big plus. Um, I don't know. Looking at some of the, just I don't even know what some of the titles, like what these movies are about, but just like some of them seem like maybe I wouldn't be a huge fan. Like Big House USA. I don't know if that's a prison movie. I don't know.
That
But
sounds like a fake movie poster you'd find in a video game or something, like in the
yeah,
background of a Max Payne game or something.
yeah, it does look like it's a Prison Break movie. But so that's like one example of like I don't, is a Prison Break movie a noir?
It's not
Like
what I think of when I think noir.
yeah, I mean maybe there's an element there, but that maybe that one's a bit of a stretch. But like I haven't gotten to what this dude's movie is, but
Maybe.
that guy is whatever that movie is. That is a noir. Is that might be Bullet for Joey? That might be a Bullet for Joey. Because this
He's got
this
it cocked and ready for Joey.
this one here, this is Witness to Murder. This is He Ran All the Way. Like, that's noir-ish. Like, that's okay, but this guy, that is noir
Getting some Telly
personified right there.
Savalas vibes from him. Who loves you,
Yeah.
baby?
Yeah, yeah,
Who
honestly,
loves you,
yeah.
Joey? Not me.
Yeah. So, yeah, but very cool. Very cool set.
Yeah, actually, this is not a tangent, but this is just a point that I think is worth making. Is like one thing that I really enjoy about talking with you, Brad, is that there's a thing that happens in like film discussions and where there's a tendency to like go for the top of the pile, kind of
Mhm.
like when exploring genres or eras or whatever, especially genres. I've noticed like there's a common practice of like, I want to watch action movies or I want to learn about action movies, I'll watch Die Hard and then nothing else.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, no, 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 you don't understand. By putting your hand on Die Hard, do you realize what you just did? You just cracked open an entire subgenre of action films, because Die Hard in A or Die Hard on A is an entire subgenre of action film. And the same goes for like noir or something. It's like you have your Maltese Falcon or something like, or Casablanca or some shit. There's also all that stuff. You got A Bullet for Joey.
Yeah,
And I
classic.
really, I really enjoy the fact that you and I seem to have that in common, where we like kind of digging around at the bottom of the barrel, or you know, like when you're at the grocery store, like when you're like buying a loaf of bread or something. It's like, I'm not gonna take the one in the front. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take the one behind that
Exactly.
one.
Yep, yep.
You got to do it.
Mhm,
And I'm kind of the same way. I mean, as evidenced by me watching Tiger Cage, not just one but two and three, and
mhm.
all these other not so great movies, honestly, but they contribute in their own way, and every film is a little bit of a mini miracle, honestly, just because of the amount of time and effort and money that goes into making even the shittiest of films sometimes. um and yeah, I appreciate that you have it in you to appreciate that, where it's just like, oh, I will watch noir movies, not just like the heavy hitters or whatever, because I, curious.
Yeah, and I think these, these companies putting this stuff out physically is a big push for that. Like, to be honest, would I have watched a Bullet for Joey if I was just, scrolling through Max? Probably not. I'd probably jump right over Bullet for Joey. But the fact that they put these films in a collection, and it's like, I want to watch noir films. What's a good way to start? Well, let me pick up this collection in a sale and start there. And I mean, to be fair, I've seen Maltese Falcon and Double Indemnity, so I've seen like a few of the heavy hitters, but you can only watch so many of those before you run out, and then it's like, then you go to the B tier, then you go to the C tier, and you get to Big House USA, and then you just keep going down. But there's always more to discover.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel. Is like, if you love a thing or you're curious about a thing, it's worth digging around in there, without a map. Like
Hmm.
go in there without a road map and see what you find, because every once in a while you find some cool shit. Like, that's one of my favorite things in talking about movies with a lot, like my brother in particular, but a lot of my friends, is talking about something that actually wasn't that great, but has ideas that if you had explored them in a different way, maybe it would have been brilliant.
Hmm.
And in fact, like, I feel like, unfortunately, because film is a business, like there's a lot of golden opportunities that are passed over because of name brand value. It's like there's a lot of pretty good movies that are much more deserving of being remade than a lot of the other shit that we've been getting lately.
Hmm.
Because if something was imperfect the first time, then it's a perfect candidate to try it again, because maybe it had some golden nuggets in there that you could really polish and make something of. Anyway, cool stuff, Brad.
Thank you.
Also, side note, Max makes me want to hurl.
Yeah.
That is what I mean. I just went off about Jing Wu for how long. Like, I could do the same about Max, where it's like, are you sure about that rebranding? It's like, oh yeah, totally. Are you sure about that rebranding?
Yeah, not great.
Is this really what you want to do? You want to
Yeah.
discard the name HBO?
Yeah, Warner Brothers is having a rough year,
They
so
are so fucked.
yeah,
They
very,
are
very
so fucked.
strange.
I've noticed the programming is starting to dip too. That Jared program. I don't know if you
Oh,
put that on, Brad, but
no,
that
I
that
didn't.
is some discovery bullshit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's shit.
Yeah.
It is such. I work from home, folks, so I have the benefit of being able to treat documentaries and such as podcasts while I'm working. No, it's terrible. It's really
Yeah,
bad.
not even as a background watch.
Not even as a background watch. Just fucking trash, man. And I'm starting to see more of that shit pop up in the queue, where it's like, so Mr. like Mr. New CEO Zazzler or whatever is like, background in reality television, you say?
Mhm.
I couldn't tell. Like, I really didn't notice.
Yeah. Yeah, once I finish, catching up on Succession, I might be out. I might be out.
I'm really considering pulling the plug.
Yeah.
Although I do need it for next week's review. I'll just say that much. Okay. Well, I guess I have one more pick then, and then speed round.
I mean, my speed round is basically just one movie, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll actually here. Let's call it good. I don't need to do another pick because the thing that I just pulled is something that I don't want to talk at length about.
Okay.
And I am going in chronological order, working backwards here. Okay, so folks at home, if you're not aware, the speed round is basically exactly as it sounds. This is where Brad and I will be just running through whatever titles that we pulled that we didn't talk at length about, and we'll just run through them real quick without a back and forth discussion. So it'll just be like show and tell in rapid succession here. So Brad, how many picks you got? Just the one you said?
Yeah, I only grabbed one more. So
Okay. Well, how about you just go ahead and do that one, and then I can blow my wad here at the end.
yeah. The other movie I grabbed, which I watched a little while ago now, but it's worth mentioning. It's a Vinegar Syndrome title. It's Shallow Grave.
Ooh.
Which is kind of fits into the like a joyride kind of zone. It's about a group of young college aged girls who are on a road trip home after the end of the semester. And while they're on the road trip, they witness this sheriff committing a murder. And then it's basically him hunting them down on the road and him sort of throwing them into the jail and them trying to tell the other deputies what happened without the sheriff knowing that they're telling the other deputies. And it's fun. It's a little sort of like somewhat horror-ish kind of thriller. And I did enjoy it. It was a fun little watch. Some good bonus features on the Blu-ray, but also you watch enough Blu-ray bonus features and stuff, every once in a while you get like an interview that is just done in like the worst possible environment. Like they interview, I think it's with a producer of the film, and it's like he's like at a country club, and there's just like it's outdoors, like you can hear the wind, and like I think you can hear people playing tennis in the background. It's just
Oh my
like really, like
god.
he agreed to the interview, but he's like, we're gonna do it on my terms when I'm free. We're gonna do it while I'm having lunch outside of the country club, and just like terrible setting for the interview. But yeah, it's a pretty good little movie.
Yeah, no, I love the cover art on that one. What year did it come out?
80, 89, I want to say. Oh,
Oh,
84. Not even close.
wow, a lot
84.
earlier than I was expecting.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's fun little flick.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun premise. If they keep the tension, ratchet it up, I could see
Yeah.
it being a lot of fun.
Yep. Yep.
Speaking of interviews conducted on the interviewees' terms, there's a video that I go back to very frequently on YouTube just because it makes me laugh for the dumbest of reasons. So everything is wrestling, Brad. Just so you know, when it comes to talking to me about stuff. I'm surprised it took this long, honestly, for a wrestling reference to pop up. So Kevin Nash, are you familiar, by the way?
The name, I maybe from you. I can't tell you who that is though.
I could be wrong. I think he's from Detroit,
Maybe
by the
that's
way.
why.
He's like a very nearly 7 feet tall pro wrestler. Was big in the 90s.
Okay.
He played Super Shredder in TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze. He played the Russian in the Thomas Jane Punisher film from the mid 2000s. He plays a doorman in the first John Wick, and he is very badly dubbed with a Russian accent.
Mm.
I think he was on an episode of like Boy Meets World or some shit at some
Okay.
point. Anyway, I love Kevin Nash for the dumbest of reasons because he lives his life like a man that is very nearly 7 feet tall and gives zero fucks about anybody who isn't. Anyway, there's this interview of him on YouTube that I sent to my brother a long time ago, and he and I just crack up at it. It's him in the back of an Olive Garden, I think, and he has like 2 or 3 Diet Cokes, take it like put in front of him,
Yeah.
and the acoustics in the room are terrible. And they have
Mhm.
this handheld mic, like a handheld shotgun or something, and he served like a plate of ravioli during the interview.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's awesome.
most of the time he's like hunched over like this, and like occasionally looks over at the guy with the microphone. And again, 2 or 3 Diet Cokes in front of him. And then during most of the interview, just
Yeah.
it's just that sound
Oh, man.
for like 10 minutes.
That is, I will say, that is a weird thing I enjoy about these smaller companies, interviews, is it's often them going to people's homes
Yeah.
and, interviewing them there, and, I get a kick out of just, like, seeing the homes of these people, like, maybe it's a little bit of, like, a TLC kinda thing, like, I like getting a glimpse into somebody's, real life, especially, like, you know, people that aren't famous by any means, but, like, what does the house of somebody who directed a couple of, like, badly reviewed horror movies from the '80s and has not worked in any sort of Hollywood sense then, like, what does that house look like? I get a kick out of that.
Yeah, especially in like the world of genre cinema, you find
Mhm,
there's a lot of really eccentric personalities where it's like you
mhm.
think they're strange on film, that is them reeled back quite a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah, there's some really interesting interviews with like horror personalities and
Mhm.
stuff. And then also you get the opposite as well, where it's like some people who come across as totally wild and like out to lunch on film, they're like completely normal and like really really
Yeah.
pleasant when you get them one on one. John Carpenter, you come to him. Like he's not going out for
Yeah.
you. Like you come to him.
Mhm.
Okay, well, now that I got my Kevin Nash story out of the way, by the way, I may have to send you that link,
Yeah,
if
I
only
do
so
need to
you
see
can get
that.
that sound bite
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
7 foot, 300 pound man eating raviolis
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
while sitting too close to the mic. Okay, so speed round for myself. I have a decent sized stack here, but as I said, first thing out the gate, I don't want to talk about this at length because I already have twice. So speaking of Max, this is not on Max. Oddly enough, it is a Warner Brothers film, Warner Brothers MGM, but I believe this is actually on Amazon Prime at the moment. So I have here Creed 3 on 4K. Directed by Michael B. Jordan and starring Michael B. Jordan, as well as a guy who I'm not sure if he'll ever work again. So we will see, Kang. Uh, Brad and I talked about this for quite a while. My brother and I talked about this for damn near 3 hours.
It was a good conversation, though. I did like you and your brother talking about it.
Oh, you actually listened to it?
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Oh, okay. Thanks, bud. I appreciate that because that's asking a lot from anyone.
This guy never believes I listen. This guy never believes me.
See, I don't know if you're listening, but I do know you're watching my and everyone else's letterboxed like a hawk.
That I am definitely like, yeah, you can quiz me on that. Don't quiz me on, any like your Creed 3 episode because, it was like what 3 weeks ago now, but
Yeah,
you can quiz me on your letterbox because I'm
yeah.
watching that like a
I
hawk.
could I could just throw any name out there. I could throw any movie, and Brad's his eyes was just you do the chicken eyes thing. It's just like
Yeah,
three,
my party trick.
4.5.
No, not quite that good, not quite that good.
But yeah, Creed 3. I've talked about it for probably 5 hours. Honestly, still didn't get it all out. I still had thoughts. Like it was keeping me up at night. For some reason, that movie I have way too many thoughts about. It's not that good. Like that's the conclusion I arrived at after talking about it for that long. Is that it's not very good.
Seemed like on a rewatch you were even a little bit cooler on it. I don't know, like, star rating wise if you dropped or anything, but definitely seemed like, I don't know, seemed like we were maybe giving it a little too much credit the first time maybe. I don't know, maybe that's just me projecting, but
I pretty sure I gave it the same star rating.
mhm.
But there is something to be said for IMAX and theater sound systems and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just not that great. But it does have some lovely ideas, and there's so much potential. And that I talked about this earlier with you, Brad. Just those are the movies that I oftentimes find most compelling. Is the ones
Hmm.
that have elements to them that if you went about it a different way would have been brilliant. That's not a brilliant film. Anyway, back to the list. I watched this very appropriately on Memorial Day because I was feeling I'm not a very patriotic person, but you got to do it.
Hmm.
Saving Private Ryan on 4K. I've watched it twice on the format now, and this movie's fucking great, man.
Hmm.
It's a fucking great ass movie, and I watched it on Memorial Day, so it was all the more emotionally impactful. Um, a little bit, I did quite a lot of housekeeping because I was looking at the calendar for June, and at some point I realized, oh, I'm going to spend a lot of money this month. So I was looking at my backlog, and I was like, I better start clearing that out. It's going to make me antsy
Hmm.
if I take in all this new shit without actually stripping away some of the backlog. So a lot of these titles to come are going to be examples of me doing some housekeeping. So I've owned this for quite a while. Only just got around to watching it like within the past couple of months. The Northman. I still like it quite a lot. I
Hmm.
think this movie has a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of really interesting stuff going on with the storytelling and the perspective of the storytelling. I think that's something that a lot of people maybe slept on. Is that this movie has conflicting perspectives on a lot of the things that it's showing you, and I think it adds a lot of extra layers to the experience if you come at it from that angle.
Yeah, I'd
Um,
like to revisit it, knowing some things specifically about Nicole Kidman's character on a rewatch. I think could add some extra layers.
yeah, I actually made a clip for our YouTube channel about me hearing about people watching The Northman at strictly face value and a lot of the wrong people taking the wrong ideas from that
Hmm.
movie. It's like I didn't see the same movie as that person. I
Yeah.
really did not. Um, anyway, some more housekeeping. Akira on 4K. Uh, I've owned this for a very long time. It's from Funimation. It's on 4K. It's fucking gorgeous as always. I've talked about this movie far too many times, so I won't bore Brad or you, the audience, about any more of that. But I will say that 4K presentation is wonderful. And previously, I'd only watched the opening sequence just to like christen the player with the disc, like grace the TV with the Akira, but not the whole thing because that finale still gets under my skin and makes me feel icky inside when I watch it. So like every time I put that movie on, that's always in the back of my mind. It's like there's going to be a part at the end of this movie that's going to make me feel really bad about myself and really disgusting.
Yeah.
Can should I just turn it off? Every time I watch that fucking movie, I have that debate with myself. Should I just stop it at a certain point? But no, I watched the whole thing and thankfully, the girlfriend didn't walk in during the end. I was really worried that was going to happen. Like, what the fuck are you
Yikes. Yeah.
watching? uh, I talked about Toei earlier today and Arrow as well. That was the first thing I talked about today. The Executioner Collection from Arrow, which are a pair of Sonny Chiba films from the mid 70s or early 70s. I actually already had the first one on DVD, and the second one, this was my first time watching it. It is not as good. It is a heist movie, though, for the most part, which I know appeals to you specifically, Brad.
Oh yeah.
It's more of the first one's more of like a gangster slash martial arts film. Very, very trashy. Lots and lots and lots of boobers, as well as violence and martial arts and stuff. Um, Second one's largely just a heist movie with like an action finale. Um, some more housekeeping. Uncut Gems. Was this
Hmm.
the first collaboration we did, Brad?
Yeah. Yeah. First movie we discussed together.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it was probably the year this one came.
2019 and end of
2019. You got
2019.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the year that came out. So yeah, that was the first time Brad and I ever talked, and that was for his show, the Cinema Speak podcast. good times. That was my first time rewatching that movie. That's the Criterion 4K. That was like a Christmas gift
Mm,
from my brother. It's still great. It really is. It's a damn good movie. It's
yeah.
if you can't handle the tension though, not recommended. But I still really like it. I enjoyed it the first time, liked it again the second time. Uh, an episode that we did for the podcast, The Adventures of Robin Hood. This is on DVD, which I know makes Brad queasy. But yeah, this is the Errol Flynn headlined Robin Hood. I had to do that for homework for the fucking show. I got Steven Spielberg's The Fablemans. I really enjoyed this movie, Brad. I forget what kind of star rating did you give this one?
Well, I think I gave it about the same as you. I think I also gave it a 4 out of 5.
I think that's fair because it does
Yeah,
have liabilities. It's not a
yeah,
perfect movie, but it resonated with me. I got a
hmm
lot out of this, and
yeah,
I I didn't think it was like it is a little schmaltzy. Like it does feel a little navel gazy at times, but man, there's a couple of scenes in this movie that just like really speak to me. I've watched that scene with Judd Hirsch a dozen times.
hmm yeah,
Holy shit! Like that is some holy shit level acting and writing. Honestly, uh, yeah, I really enjoyed that. The girlfriend liked it too,
hmm
which was surprising. She told me after the fact. She has this thing where she prefers to like her characters, which leads to tension when it comes to the way we pick our movies. Because I'm okay with not liking the protagonist
yeah,
and stuff like that. She tends to prefer to like her characters, and something that is presented in that movie, and the way she described it was it's a very human story where it forces you to hold two conflicting opinions about many of the characters in it. Where it's like these are just these are people like everything is amped up for sure, like everything is melodramatic, but there a lot of the relationships are very very complicated in that
hmm
movie, and she was surprised that like it still worked for her. Speaking of face blindness, we're not making light of it, just so we're clear, not making light of it. It is an affliction, it is a problem. We feel for the people who grapple with it. Bullet Train, featuring a man who wouldn't be able to recognize me if he knew me. Directed by David Leitch, 8711 guy. Hokkaido, or Hokkaido, Mechanical Violator Hokkaido, by the way. It's not a porno, by the way. This is from a Japanese director who I have said so many times now, it's starting to fucking hurt my brain. I've said so many times that I would love to devote a month to spotlighting this director's films. One, because most of them are short, and two, because his aesthetics, his production design is some of my favorite. I love the way his costumes and his sets look. Like they're cheap. Don't get me wrong. Like they are cheap, but I really love the way he designs his characters and his worlds. Keita Amemiya is the fella's name, by the way. And Hokkaido is one of his feature films, of which he has several live action films, at least enough to populate a month. I have Smoke and Mirrors, the story of Tom Savini, excuse me,
mm-hmm.
from Wild Eye Productions. Yikes! This was all right. It was like Tom Savini's a lovely fella. He's a unbelievably affable personality when it comes to interviews and whatnot. But in terms of like digging deep and like really getting into like the history and what makes him tick, it's a little it's kind of kid gloves. Kid gloves are thoroughly on for that experience. But
Yeah,
you know, it's Tom Savini. An hour and a half with Tom Savini is not an hour and a half completely wasted. And then last thing here, In Search of Darkness. I did at the end of April watch the third and final part of this year box set of horror documentaries, and that is literally everything I own that I've watched since April.
that thing you just held up for In Search of Darkness.
Yep,
So 3 cases can fit in that box. Is that
I'll hold it up again. I'll hold it up again.
not to get off on a tangent here, but All right. All right.
I mean,
Very
they're pretty well jammed in there, and two of them do have slip cases.
okay.
I don't know why my first one doesn't have a slip case. Is that going to keep me up at night, Brad? I think that's going to keep me up at night.
That's yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't lose sleep over it, but it's not going to put me to sleep soundly. I'll say that.
But yeah, that was literally everything I've watched in the past couple of months. Uh, wow, that was a lot. Okay, so that concludes the speed round, and that also concludes the episode. So I'll say, Brad, thank you so much for joining me today. It feels like it's been a really long time, although that's probably not true at all.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was just nice and laid
Yeah,
back episode. It was good.
it's kind of nice having the decision making process just taken out of your hands, where it's
Yeah.
just like, what did you watch?
Yep.
I'll let the letterbox tell me. See that to Brad's friends, this is why you need to be on top of that shit.
100%.
Be on top of that shit, so you can do things like this and not
Mhm.
have to sweat about it. Like, you don't have to be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, did I forget something? Did I
Yeah.
forget to log something? Did I log Shin Kamen Rider without doing a star rating?
Yeah, big no-no, big no-no.
Big no no. That's some bad juju right there. Uh, but yeah, thanks as always, Brad. This is always quite a lot more fun having somebody to actually talk to. But before we go, would you care to let our listeners and viewer, according to the chat, know where they can find you and your super awesome podcast?
Yeah, it's the Cinema Speak podcast. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at the Cinema Speak, on Instagram as Cinema Speak Podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And just listen to us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
I think I heard the other day that Stitcher is going down.
Oh, is it?
I think so. You might want to look that up because I think I saw that on the Twitter the other day.
I might just have to leave it because I can't change my. It's too embedded in me saying Stitcher.
I know. I hate when that kind of stuff happens where it's like, I had that happen with the end of my outro where
Mm-hmm.
they changed the name of the app on me. And it was like, fuck.
Yeah, yeah, I did notice that. I figured it had to be something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't up to me. But yeah, I heard Stitcher was going down. And here comes the part, Brad, where I get to ask you the fun question of YouTube. Do you have any videos in the pipe at the moment?
I mean, last time you asked me that, I said I'm working my way through the film noir set, and I had 3 more movies to watch, and it's probably been a month, and I still have 3 more movies to watch. So we'll see. We'll see if we get around to that. I don't know. You know, I'd like to film more stuff, but it's a lot. It's a lot of added work. You know, it's tough. It's tough.
It is tough. Lately I've been having a lot of trouble doing time management and stuff.
Hmm.
I've been weirdly busy. Uh, doesn't happen to me very often. But I will extend the offer. If you do end up shooting raw footage for stuff that you want, but don't have time to edit it, I'm kind of looking for practice. So if you don't mind and you have an idea of what the end product should be, I'd be more than happy to give it a crack.
If that offer still stands, I might hold you to that because
It
I
does.
remember you offered it for like there was a time where you were like, you know, it was just like your girlfriend was out of town or whatever, and I was like, the week passed, and I was like, fuck, I should have took it. I should have taken him up on that. God damn it.
No, offer still stands. So
All right,
if you
all
get
right,
around to shooting some stuff that you don't have time to edit, just
yeah.
give me a poke. Okay, well, that being said, I guess it's time for my outro. So the show is called Catching Up on Cinema. You already know that because you're watching this. Um, you can find us on the social medias in the form of the Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema, as well as the Twitter at Catching Cinema. We do have a website, by the way. It is catchinguponcinema.com, and you can find most of our episodes collected there. My host has really given me a lot of grief lately, so I haven't been able to update it as regularly as I would like. Um, and the show is available on pretty much every platform you can imagine, including Bitcade. So fucking Google that shit. And that being said, thank you so much for listening and or watching. And we will catch you next time. And now comes the part where I hit the end stream button and we